Welcome to the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for Wednesday, April 3rd. This is Gina Palma. Over the last 2 weeks, we've continued to see precipitation across the central portion of the Great Basin, which has been above normal for the 2-week period, and drier conditions in the far south, and also across Idaho into western Wyoming. However, these conditions will change in the coming week. Looking at new snowfall over the last 24 hours, you can see the image on the left. Mainly in the higher terrain of the Sierra has had the most snowfall of over 8 inches or up to 12 inches in some areas over the last 72 hours, and then lower amounts across the higher terrain of Nevada over into the northern Utah mountains and up into Idaho and Wyoming. We still have good snow depth, however, on all our high elevations across the Great Basin. This picture shows the current snowpack, and we are currently about 150 to 200% above normal over the higher terrain of the Sierra into Nevada and Utah, and near normal over the rest of Idaho into western Wyoming. Looking at the satellite loop from this morning, we do have a trough of low pressure now moving across eastern Utah and Wyoming, and this will continue pushing eastward. This is causing clouds and some showers this morning across the eastern half to 2/3 of Utah and also southwest Wyoming. We will have a brief ridge of high pressure that will move across the Great Basin later today and tomorrow, bringing some quiet weather before the next storm system moves into the region. Looking at our weather pattern for later today, that system does exit to our east into the Rocky Mountain area, and we do see that ridge of high pressure move over the area later today. Again, this will bring mostly calm conditions, lighter winds, and also no precipitation as we move later into the day. However, this will be fairly short-lived. We will also, under this ridge, have poor dispersion, so that will be decreasing as we go through the day today. Again, winds will be fairly light across the area, still some moderate winds over eastern Utah, up into eastern Idaho and Wyoming as that system exits with those northwest winds. Otherwise, light winds and generally high to mid mixing heights over the southern half of the Great Basin and lower closer to that exiting area of low pressure across northeast Utah, eastern Idaho into Wyoming. As we move into Thursday, the next system quickly approaches. We will see clouds start to increase throughout the morning and precipitation eventually move into western and northern areas of the Great Basin as we get towards midday, and this will continue pushing eastward. These will have some fairly high snow levels, especially across Idaho into Wyoming, so we will see some rain at many of the elevations. There are some flood concerns up there or rises on some of the area rivers up across the northern side of the basin. Otherwise, winds will be increasing out ahead of the system as well, so better ventilation on Thursday across Nevada, the southern areas of the Great Basin, and Utah. And you can see that here on the transport winds on the left, those gusty south to southwest winds along the Sierra front into central and eastern Nevada and even in the far south. Mixing heights again will remain generally moderate across the area. On Friday, this first system pushes east and we see the next system approaching for the weekend. Again, this will keep showers across much of the Great Basin along with some breezy winds. Therefore, good dispersion will be occurring across all areas of the basin. You can see these winds as they increase on Friday with south-southwest winds. The strongest will be along the Sierra and Sierra front, and then also fairly strong winds gusting above 35 or 40 miles per hour over southern, central, and eastern Nevada into parts of Utah. It will also be quite breezy up north across central Idaho. Mixing heights will remain relatively high across the eastern half of the basin and a little bit lower over parts of northwest Nevada near that storm system. Looking at the forecast clearing index for Utah, as we move through today, generally lower clearing indices, especially in the higher terrain, and then more moderate values down into the valleys. The only areas that we'll see higher clearing indices will be over southern and eastern Utah, where those northwest winds are still breezy today as this area of low pressure exits. On Thursday, winds increase over western Utah, so you will see clearing indices rapidly rise and remain more moderate in areas further east. And then again, high clearing indices region-wide on Friday as those winds will tend to peak on Friday within the next few days. The forecast amount of precipitation over the next 3 days is shown here. You can see generally targeting the northern half to 2/3 of the Great Basin. The only dry areas will be across the Arizona Strip, southern Nevada, and parts of southern Utah. The heaviest precipitation will be felt in the Sierra. We will have some good rainfall over parts of Idaho and western Wyoming as well. As we move into the weekend, this next system starts to exit on Saturday. We still will have some clouds and maybe some light showers over parts of Idaho into northern Nevada, with more of the storm track starting to shift a little bit further north. Therefore, we'll start to see the southern half of the Great Basin dry out. Good ventilation is expected in all areas, as still some breezy winds as these systems move through. On Sunday, similar conditions. We may see a little bit better chance for some showers up across Idaho, generally cloud cover into northwest Nevada. Again, that storm track is going to stay a little bit further north, so we'll see drier conditions over the southern half of the Great Basin, with good ventilation expected in all areas. Very similar conditions on Monday, and as we move into Tuesday, that trough of low pressure starts to drop southeast. We will see a little bit cooler weather for Idaho, and some showers being pushed further east and south into Utah and Wyoming. Good dispersion in most areas, with the exception of the areas further north near that low pressure center, which is where winds will be weaker and dispersion will be decreasing. Looking at precipitation on days 4 and 5, basically from early Saturday to early Monday, again showing most of the precipitation will be focused in the far north, but we will see some lighter shower activity, especially as we get closer to Monday down back into Utah. The 8 to 14 day outlook shows cooler temperatures as we move into the second week of April, and also a continued wet pattern across the Great Basin. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back on Friday for the latest updates.